Council in session. Please stand for the Worshipful, the Mayor of the Borough Decorum, Councillor Brenda Link.
Good evening, everybody. Before we commence proceedings, I would ask members to ensure that you remain respectful and adhere to the rulings of the Mayor at all times and be mindful of your behaviour throughout the meeting. I would also like to remind members that any standards matters or councillor complaints should be raised directly with the monitoring officer and not during this meeting. Thank you. Right, so to agenda item 1. Does the council agree the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 13th of November 2024? Thank you. Agenda item 2. Declarations of interest. Do we have any? No. Agenda item 3. There is no public participation. And now to agenda item 4, I have some announcements. I'm sad to announce the passing of former councillor John Mottershead, who represented the Tring West and Rural Ward from May 2023 to February 2024. Before we hold a minute's silence, does anybody wish to share any reflections? Councillor Patterson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I first met John in the autumn of 2022 when he appeared at a Meet the Council stall in the Market Square at Tring. This is for Tring Town Council, of course. And he began chatting with myself and Councillor Wilkie, who was there as well. And he showed particular interest in what the council was doing. And so, after a while, he said, why didn't anyone ever ask you to be a councillor? And he said, well, no one ever asked me. And we said, well, we must put that right. And we discussed it further with him. And he was agreeable to become a councillor on Tring Town Council the following May. He was also selected to be a borough councillor for Tring Western Rural, and he was elected for that as well. Sadly, his health began to decline after that, and it was with difficulty that he could continue as a councillor. However, he was able to, at my suggestion, chair the Building and Assets Committee at Tring Town Council. And he was a phenomenon. He was really good. He had engineering background, knew all about buildings, and he took us forward in lots of different ways, which were really impressive. But sadly, after a few more months, he had to retire. He was a lovely man, and I miss him very much, and I hope that this council respects that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Williams?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously, given his relatively short tenure here, we didn't get to know John very well, and as has been said, he suffered from ill health from the time of his election, so he found it quite difficult. But on behalf of my group, we'd like to pass our condolences on to his family. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Right, now we will hold a 1-minute silence. Thank you. A seat. I'm also sad to announce the passing of former Councillor Anne Ryan, who represented the Grove Hill ward from May 2007 to May 2015. Before we hold a silence to remember Councillor Ryan, does anyone wish to share any reflections? Councillor Sewell.
Yeah, February 3rd, same day Aunt Ryan passed away. Gary, one of the son of Anne, informed me her passing news. When I moved to Groveville, she was my first friend in the areas, and we became very close since 2009. Anne, whom I could trust and ask for advice when I needed. She was the most caring and friendly person I ever met in Groveville. I had a long chat with her before last Christmas and planned to visit her care homes where she used to live. I told her I would come to visit after May election. Unfortunately, it won't happen. We never forget send Christmas wishes and Diwali wishes every year. I always meet her in her birthday. I remember when she was going to Malta and I dropped her to Luton Airport. She's the most caring, friendly person. I will miss a true friend, and Gary and Paul as a son, they will miss her. They're lovely mothers. So I wish her soul rest in peace. God bless her.
Thank you. Councillor Banks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Binder and I have worked with Anne for a number of years as Grove Hill councillors, and Grove Hill will be poorer for not having her in our community. She was chair at Grove Hill Community Centre for a number of years, and her guiding light in driving through change at Grove Hill Community Centre to make it reflect our community will leave a lasting mark for us all. She was an extraordinary lady, and I'm very pleased to call her a friend, and indeed, may she rest in peace. Thank you.
Councillor Binder.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I haven't written anything down, but I do feel obliged to say a few words. All day I've been thinking of adjectives to describe Anne Ryan, and I keep on coming back to one simple word, and that's unique. Once you crack through the very hard exterior, she was a real laugh. And going back to 2007, one incident which often comes to mind and does make me titter. Councillor Duris and I were canvassing. It was a lovely spring evening, and the ice cream van pulled in up the road. And I was green. I was a kid, and ice cream, you know. So I asked Terry and Anne if they'd like some ice cream, and Anne found the whole thing really quite outrageous. We're canvassing. We can't have ice cream. Well, I got ice cream anyway, and she definitely wolfed it down, and it changed things thereafter. So when we said that year when we went canvassing, we would time our outings to synchronise with the ice cream van. But she was a gas. She was absolutely fantastic, and as I said, only one word: unique. She'll be sorely missed. Thank you, Madam.
Councillor Duris.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I reflected on when I first met Anne, and for many years prior to 2007, Grove Hill had been a pretty desolate land, if you like, in terms of Conservative activity and Conservative representation on the council. Anne changed that because Anne galvanised everybody and got us going and got us out servicing and working together.
And she was quite simply, not only was she unique, but she was also the glue that held it together and made, if you like, a three-corded rope being very, very strong. We had the sad privilege of attending her funeral today, and to hear some of the difficulties and the challenges that she had as a younger person brought it very much home how strong she was and how brave she was in bringing up her two boys and two very successful sons that she has now. So I think that's all that is to be said, but she was a unique character and one that we owe a great debt of gratitude to for her work both in Grove Hill and in Decorum and for all the people that she met.
Oh, thank you. Councillor England?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I didn't cross paths with Anne, but listening to the accounts that have been given of her tonight, I'm impressed. She clearly turned something around, and that's a massive achievement. And she clearly was a community leader, and that's a massive achievement too. So from this side and from the leader of the council, then rest in peace, Anne. Well done.
Thank you, everybody. And now we'll hold a minute's silence. Thank you, everybody. Now, moving on, as this is her last council meeting with us, our Chief Executive, I would invite members to join me in thanking Claire Hamilton for her service to Decorum Borough Council. I believe the leader would like to make a presentation on behalf of all of the members. Thanks, Adrian. Oh, God, my tickles.
You're amazing. Good to get there. But I've prepared some words. So the key thing is we started here in COVID. It was a difficult time to start, but you absolutely smashed it. You've created a new SLT, new senior team. That's a major achievement. I must admit, I was in a hotel in where it was, Knaresborough, and Claire said to me, "You know what? I've been here for 4 years. I don't know." I had just a little moment at the time, and I was like, 4 years. That sounds like a bit of a long time, doesn't it? And I had no idea, and I'm pretty sure that you didn't at that point either. But as a new leader, I just massively appreciate the support you gave me. Massively appreciate your willingness to look at all the possibilities and make sure that we're prepared for all of them, which I just, I don't know if all chief execs do that. I really hope they do. But you do that, and for me as a person, it means that I can let myself think the way that I want to think, and know that we've got the assurance to either get there, or you'll tell me that it's completely ridiculous and I should think again, or get in the strategic space or whatever it may be. So Thank you very much. And it's not just flowers, there's also chocolates as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, councillors first.
Yes, Councillor Dhyani.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And I just want to take a moment to say a few words about Claire before she heads off to her next journey, next adventure, I should say. Thank you, first of all, for all these years you've supported Decorum from such a tough time of COVID and getting us this far. Since my time in Cabinet and Deputy Leader, you've been nothing but supportive. From day one, you've been approachable, honest, and always willing to listen. Whether it was about a big thing or strategic decision or just the day-to-day challenges. That comes with your role, but you've done it fantastically. You've been really steadying force, helping to navigate some tricky moments, and that's been within the party, within the group, but you always provided such a calm and a clarity to the position we've been in. What I appreciate most is about how authentic you are. No jargon, no pretense, just straight talking and solution focused. And I really mean that. That kind of leadership makes a huge difference, not just to those of us who work closely with you, but to whole of the council and ultimately the residents we serve. So thank you for being such an amazing chief for us, and you'll be hugely missed. No doubt you will make a lot of impact in your new role, but wishing you all the best and don't be a stranger. Okay, thank you.
No. Right. Thank you. Now back to the business of the agenda. Oh no, sorry. Claire would like to give some words. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, I'm honoured to have been your Chief Executive for the last 4.5 years, and I'm sad that this is my last full council with you all. First and foremost, I would like to say thank you to each and every one of you for the positive working relationship we have had since I joined the council, and for your incredible support for our transformation, customer strategy, housing improvement and place shaping work, which has been the driving focus of our work for some time now. In particular, I would like to thank Councillor Andrew Williams for the faith he put in me as a new Chief Executive and for the guidance he gave to me as I started my leadership journey during the pandemic and beyond. Thank you, Andrew. I would also like to place on record my thanks to my other leaders, Councillors Tyndall and England, and also to Councillor Mitchell, Councillor Dhyani, Councillor Banks and Councillor Madden, and former Councillor Margaret Griffiths for their support, which has always been there when I needed it. I would also like to thank my officer colleagues in the Council's leadership team for their passion and innovation and their amazing commitment to public sector excellence. I have had the opportunity to work alongside some of the most talented and dedicated local government professionals, and for that I am truly grateful. Decorum is an amazing place with such clear opportunities, and you enjoy strong and positive partnerships with both the community and voluntary sector, and also the private sector. Your officers are of a very high calibre, and they are focused on delivering high quality and empathetic services to residents and businesses. And together we are creating the right conditions for future investment. You have all the ingredients for success, and I have no doubt that your desire to deliver the very best for your people and places will ensure that you leave a lasting legacy for the Borough of Decorum. Thank you for your kind words tonight, and for the flowers and chocolates, and for the privilege of serving as your CEO. I wish you continued success and a bright future ahead. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Now back to the business of the agenda. Claire, do you have any announcements as the Chief Executive?
I do, Madam Mayor. My last announcement. A by-election will take place on Thursday, the 27th of February 2025, to fill a vacancy on Tring Town Council in the Bunstrucks ward. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I now invite the group leaders to give any announcements and apologies for absence on behalf of their groups. Councillor England.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following the very recent conclusion of the Lib Dem regional investigation into my group, I've reflected on the findings. For all involved to be enabled to move forward, I announce now two things. The first is my decision to stand down as leader of the Lib Dem group. And the second is my intention to stand down as soon as it can be orderly arranged as the leader of the council. Sally Simmerton has been elected as the new leader of the Lib Dem group. Our priority as Lib Dems, I'm sure as all of us, should and will be always working hard and delivering for the people of Dacorum. I'm particularly grateful for the first-class support as leader of the council, which I received from the CEO and the monitoring officer during this time. This move that I'm making now and in due course is a response to the matter of my decisions and priorities as a group leader, not as the leader of the council. As leader, I have been participating in devolution and local government reorganisation conversations in Hertfordshire. These importantly affect how residents in Dacorum are represented locally. Those meetings are iterative and active, and I've been in close touch with the other group leaders at Dacorum on the progress. I will do all I can to support an orderly transition in Dacorum now. It is likely that an extraordinary full council meeting will need to be arranged to appoint a new leader of the council. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I also have apologies for Councillor Stewart and Councillor Deacon.
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, may I, in response to that statement, just thank Councillor England for the way in which we've been able to work over the last few months together. Sad to see him go and wish him well in whatever he does next. Although I'm sure he's staying here as a councillor, and maybe not quite so much luck in May. And the tender apologies on behalf of Councillor Durham and Timmis. Thank you.
Councillor Mitchell.
Firstly, I'd like to echo what Andrew's just said about Councillor England. And then I'd also like to welcome Councillor Greenfield to our Labour group as our 5th member, and also to announce that she will be taking Councillor Goverdon Sewell's place on the Finance Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. I'd also ask the Democratic Service Officer to confirm if we have any other apologies.
We do. We have apologies on behalf of the Independent Councillor Weston, Independent Councillor Capozzi and Independent Councillor Wilkie.
Thank you. Right, moving on to Agenda 5. I'll draw your attention to the portfolio holders' updates as published with the agenda. I will invite questions against each update in turn. First, though, I will ask Councillor Adrian England, do you have any verbal update? Oh, you've already done that, so I'll skip that one.
No, Brenda.
No?
First of all, if it does anything.
Oh, I see. Do you have any verbal update to give as leader of the council? Sorry, Adrian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did say it was my intention to stand down as leader, but that will be after this meeting. This is my report as the leader of the council today. On devolution and local government reorganisation, as mentioned, I've been participating in these conversations in Hertfordshire between leaders. This work is having to move very fast and is likely to need to be agreed by group leaders and then by a vote of full council. We're not really sure when that exactly will be. As I say, this is very much a moving target. The first response will be sent by HCC on the 21st of March and will contain a number of potential outcomes, it would appear. Chief Executives are working hard to meet this timetable. A more detailed response will be prepared for later in the year, and at this point it is impossible to know what the final position will be. On 3 Cherry Trees Lane closure, which is a big topic of talk point in the town, last week I attended a meeting with senior Hertfordshire County Council highways officers and senior councillors and a representative of David Taylor MP, his office. Yesterday we all attended an update meeting with some more local county councillors who were also able to join us. We talked through the reality of 3 Cherry Trees Lane, which is a minor road and already has a weight restriction and a single track section 200 metres long. The reason that this is an issue for those outside of Hemel is because there is a new roundabout being developed by Highways, and that has caused the closure of Boundary Way, which is the usual route. David's office has asked if police enforcement could be brought in, and Decorum have offered to work with Community Safety Partnership on various options that might be available. Although the one-way is now fully closed, traffic conditions were worsening and therefore it became understandable safety imperative for Highways to close it again. And that was done on the 9th of February. Looking for ways to ease the closure, I asked how quickly and if an HCC-led review of alternatives in the programme might be done in order to open Boundary Way and create a circuit. Recognising this might extend the work's duration. This was thought unlikely to be possible, but currently the project is ahead of schedule, and with warmer months ahead, some overnight working will be looked at. Also last week, we announced our commitment to the development of Health Campus in Hemel Hempstead by assembling a team to lead the project. A programme director is being recruited to drive the development of the new Health Campus, working with the Council, Hertfordshire and West Essex Integrated Care Board and West Hertfordshire Teaching Hospitals NHS Trust. It's no wonder the NHS needs to search for productivity with the length of the names of some of their organisations. Just a comment. Those are my updates as Leader of the Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions? Oh, right. Thank you, Councillor England. Next, to the People and Transformation, Climate and Ecological Emergencies Portfolio Holder. I will take the report as read and invite any questions to Councillor Smith-Wright on her update. Thank you. Councillor Gale.
Yes, thank you. Given that the Levi Fund is a Hertfordshire-wide initiative, how much of the £6 million will be allocated to Decorum?
Thank you, Councillor Gale. The Levy Fund, which is the Local Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Fund, we do have, there are specific allocations and they're based on need and feasibility. And the collaboration agreement is expected at the end of February. And we are focusing on areas that lack commercial viability for private sector providers. So it will go through progression in this council through SLT, and approvals will commence from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
It's a people question, Madam Mayor. How will the annual pay award impact council finances, and how has it been budgeted for? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson. While the award represents progress, we acknowledge the cost of living, the pressures that remain a challenge, and the pay increase is factored into our financial planning, ensuring that it is a sustainable increase without compromising service delivery, and fair pay is essential for retention and recruitment, particularly in a competitive job market.
Councillor Taylor.
How will the improvements in performance management translate into a better service for residents?
Okay, thanks, Councillor Taylor. So yes, regular high-level reviews mean issues are identified and resolved faster. This leads to more responsive services, fewer blockages, and greater accountability for service delivery. So each project has clear milestones, performance metric, and dedicated project leads. So any risks are a direct result of improved staff training.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barradell.
Thank you, Mayor. I note from the report that the staff induction process has changed, and I wondered if the portfolio holder could walk us through exactly what has changed in that process.
I will have to get back to Councillor Barradell. Thank you.
Any others? Right, we'll carry on. No, Councillor Mitchell.
Sorry, I came in late there. I was just interested in knowing a bit more about the Inspire Management Training Programme. I appreciate you may need to look into that and get back to us.
Yes, I'll do that. Thank you, Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you. Right, there's no more. Thank you. Next to the corporate and commercial portfolio, I will take the report as read and invite any questions to Councillor Allen on his update. Councillor Freedman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, having personally celebrated Valentine's Day last week by signing the Dacorum Borough Council 2023 financial statements, which followed the receipt of an unqualified audit opinion from KPMG on their first audit of DBC's financial processes, controls and health, would the portfolio holder agree with me that the DBC stands as an exception to local councils and authorities across the country in achieving this important task in a timeframe others can only aspire to, and that Nigel Halcutt, Claire Dempsey and all staff and officers deserve our acknowledgement and thanks for this achievement?
I was a bit worried where the Valentine's link was going, but yes, it is a very notable achievement. The finance team are a very slick and professional operation, and I will gladly pass on your thanks and the council's thanks for their hard work in achieving something very few councils have achieved in such a quick time frame. More than this, the auditors are new, and I understand that new auditors always like to impress by trying to uncover things, and the fact that Dacorum has got through the process without the auditors uncovering anything is also noteworthy and to be applauded. So I'll pass on your thanks to Nigel Halcutt and his team. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Please could the portfolio holder provide an update on the lease, or the Planet Ice lease at Jarman Park? Thank you. So the Dacorum Borough Council took on a lease for Planet Ice whilst they could get back onto their feet. And I'm pleased to share that the Planet Ice are soon to take back control of their lease, having benefited from the borough's guarantee. And they have paid back a loan the borough made to them to support their business practices. This is something that my predecessors take a lot of credit for. Planet Ice, since 2016, was facing a lot of difficulties, and as the last ice rink in
Hertfordshire, the borough made a strategic decision to support Planet Ice into surviving and being available for local residents. That has been achieved in timescale and without any loss incurred by the council, which is a notable achievement by that team as well.
Thank you. Councillor Hannell.
Madam Mayor, would the portfolio holder formally agree with me, a vote of thanks to the members of the Electoral Review Committee, especially their chair, Garrick Stevens, for the way in which they approached their work over the last 18 months to devise new ward boundaries for decorum. There, Madam Mayor, there are very few, in fact, more divisive topics, especially in Hemel Hempstead, other than where and in which neighbourhood you live. I found that out. This was the council's first boundary rewrite in a generation, and the collegiate style shown by all members of that committee should be an inspiration to all of us on how there is far more that unites us in the service of our residents than divides us.
Thank you very much. Yes, I completely agree with your sentiments there, and Councillor Stevens is here to hear for himself. I think even though we've got devolution on the way, whatever authorities do succeed decorum, it is important that residents are clustered into bodies, identities that they feel comfortable. So even if it doesn't benefit Decorum Borough Council in the long term, it is a long-term benefit to residents. So whilst some have been saying it's unnecessary given devolution, I disagree, and I think it's very worthwhile work, and thank all members of the committee, including yourself.
Thank you. Councillor Doris.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wonder if the portfolio holder would allow me to join with him in acknowledging the hard work, the excellent hard work and the sheer professionalism of our finance team, led by our Chief Finance Officer, who works incredibly hard. And it's a great privilege, or it's a privilege for me, but also it's a recognition of the work that the finance team do, that our internal auditors struggle, I think it's fair to say, to find things to actually read between the lines and challenge us on. And actually, the external auditors, who would normally give us an even harder time, are actually supportive and recognise the work that we do. So on that basis, perhaps it may be recorded our thanks from this side of the chamber for the work that our finance team do. Thank you.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you very much.
Next to the Housing and Property Services portfolio, I will take the report as read and invite any questions to Councillor Dhyani on her update.
Happy to take any questions, thank you.
Right. Councillor Doris, is that a question or you still? No? Councillor Guest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report refers to the issue of damp and mould. So in addressing the issue of damp and mould, does the council remediate the causes of it rather than just treating the symptoms by mould washing?
Thank you, Councillor Guest, for the question. And yes, I can happily vouch for the work being put in for the damp and mould wash. I recently requested further information that how we're tackling and not just simply providing a mould watch, which is basically 1 day service time if it's an urgent mould wash and 10 days if it's a non-urgent one. So that's a really good lead time on the mould wash, but that isn't where it all stops. There's lots of work going on in terms of we put environment sensor into the houses to figure out what is exactly wrong if we can't figure out from the fabric of the building. So there's a lot of work, and as an assurance, officers keep the case open for a good length of time to make sure that if it does come back, they're ready to take the further steps. But it's dampen and mold to a degree sometimes also can cause from a lifestyle, and hence it requires further monitoring. It's not always just the fabric of the building, but I can assure that there's not just a mold wash what we do. Thank you.
Do you need another question?
Yes, I have a supplementary. Does the portfolio holder believe that insulating all the cavity walls in the council's housing stock will help to reduce damp and mould, as well as improving energy efficiency and helping to contribute to our response to the climate emergency?
Absolutely, fully agreed to that. And we have applied for funds. So it's the third time we've applied for the funds where we can then insulate properties. We pick up on the stock which we think require the most work first. When we do such work, improving EPC rating, improving the insulation, including our climate agenda, we are prioritizing on doing those work. But again, it's the funding becomes the core of it, but that is definitely on top of our list. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Right, on to the next one. Thank you. Next to the Neighbourhood Operations Portfolio Holder, I will take the report as read and invite any questions to Councillor Bromham on his update. Right. Councillor Madden. Oh, sorry. It's questions, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, I've got one from Councillor Madden.
Thank you. Please allow me just 1 minute to give a tiny bit of background to my question for the benefit of councillors, because it affects residents and 1,400 scouts across Hemel Hempstead. As a newly retired Hemel Scout leader of 19 years, I was alerted almost a year ago to an issue at the Scouts Water Activity Centre in Durrance Hill Road. There's a breach in the watercourse, so the water's flowing into the freshwater lake from the River Bulbourne, which has sewage issues and is contaminating the lake. The issue caused the Scouts the whole of the summer of last year to miss their water activities. 1,400 Scouts couldn't get access to their water activities. Yesterday, I was contacted by Simon Fancourt, the Group Scout leader from First Apsley, who's very frustrated and disappointed that he's heard nothing from you since the 14th of November, despite being assured at the time that funding was in place, a contractor was appointed, and the flood risk activity permit was imminent. Please can you urgently update the council as to when the remedial work will take place, as the Scouts need to have the lake clear to use after Easter. And please be assured, I'm not intending to tread on toes with the Apsley councillors. I'm raising this here because the matter's been on for a year and it's affecting the whole Scouting community across Hemel Hempstead. The location of the lake is almost incidental. It's very definitely a Hemel Hempstead problem. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So it took some time, as you know, to work out what the riparian responsibility was for that particular bank that collapsed, which caused the river, I think it's the Gade or the Bulbourne, it's hard to tell at that point because it's a sort of braided stream. But yes, to flood through that lake and then to go through, I think the North Channel through the Apsley paper trail site, which was all a bit concerning because if some other problems occurred, then you could end up with water where you weren't expecting it. And so the officers tried to fix it, as you know, right at the beginning, did some heroic attempts, but it was just not possible to stop that flow with the sandbags, and so had to go through the official sort of process to get a contractor in. So the quotations have been got. We had to go through a lengthy FRAP process, FRAPP, with the Environment Agency, and that took 3 months, and they don't give the response until that 3 months has ended. The Environment Agency then wanted some update to the FRAP, and so that started another process. And I do understand, I believe that has now finished. So the approvals should be in place. So it's a matter of waiting until the water flow has stabilised, and the work should be done imminently. Precise timing, we can discuss outside the meeting if you like.
Okay, thank you. I have a supplementary, if that's okay.
Yes.
Thank you. A supplementary. In an email that you sent to Simon Fancourt on the 9th of May last year, quote, "We'll investigate providing links on the DBC website for recreational users of our rivers to the contamination alerts provided by Thames Water." I can't find any of those links anywhere on the DBC website, and I just wondered if they ever got there, and if so, could you direct me to them, please? Thank you.
Yeah, that's still a really good idea to do that. There's been a lot of updates to the IT systems, geographical information systems, and the public information, and there's updates to the My Decorum system, I understand. It's really in Councillor Smith-Wright's portfolio, but we interact very closely on these things, and enabling the residents to know exactly when the rivers are likely to be polluted and when they're more likely to be safe is information that will be very good to be able to relay. It hasn't been implemented yet. I don't know exactly what the timing of that is either, but any suggestions, issues or opportunities, things like that, do get in touch with me and the other portfolio holders.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Gale.
Thank you. Regarding the restoration of Rivergate chalk stream, are there any other challenges to recovering biodiversity there?
The biodiversity is one of the benefits of trying to turn the River Gade back into more of a chalk stream rather than the river that the sort of mill race that it has been with the weirs and so on. And part of that, and the Environment Agency has been doing works on a lot of the chalk streams to try to restore them because they are such a rare environment. And that involves making getting rid of weirs or making bypasses so that fish can get up and down. It's come to light. So in discussions with the Colne Catchment Area Network and the Nature Recovery Plan, it's been noted that the whole catchment area of the River Colne, which includes our River Gade and Bulbourne and the Ver, is all part of the Colne catchment area, and it all has to be considered together. And one of the big things that can affect that will potentially sever that from the sea and undermine a lot of the work that's been done is if an additional runway gets built at Heathrow, which would then sever that from the Thames and the open sea. And there are some species, particularly the European eel, which would be prevented then from migrating up the rivers. It's got an incredible life cycle, and it would be such a shame if future generations don't have these, can't enjoy these species.
Any other supplement? No? Fine. Councillor Guest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Would the portfolio holder be able to give a timescale for parking schemes to be installed under the Parking Solutions Programme?
Yes, this has been addressed before, and on the critical path on this particular project is the hire of an additional member of staff to manage the whole scheme, and there's job adverts out, but I don't know what the exact scale will be of hiring that person, but we'll definitely keep you updated.
Thank you. Anything else? No? Fine. Councillor Mitchell. Sorry, Councillor Guest.
Madam Mayor, would the portfolio holder be able to do that, please, so that we can see that the Parking Solutions Programme is a real programme and it's not just words?
There has been a lot of work going on. The head of service has compiled a list of, I think there's 70 or 80 potential sites on the list, and there has been a detailed plan drawn up for how to prioritise those lists, so it's all done in a completely rational and fair way, rather than being just reactive to who shouts loudest. So really trying to address where the problems are. So a lot of that work has been done, but with the staff we have at the moment, we don't really have the bandwidth to progress it much further. The funding for it is in place, so that's ready and waiting as well.
Thank you. Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. Would the portfolio holder join with me in congratulating the Neighbourhoods team and in particular the Parks and Open Spaces officer for the successful completion of the park refurbishment programme? And as a supplementary question, will we be looking to obtain any further funding for other parks that are in need of refurbishment throughout Dacorum? I mean, I don't want to be selfish about it, but there are other parks, Gabrish has now been done, such as Jockets.
Yeah, thank you for that. And yes, the parks people are really dedicated to providing really good open spaces for the residents of Dacorum. Obviously, there are constraints with finance and so on. So we are working towards a much more rational way of prioritising these things. In particular, I think there's about 50 parks that we have, and so there's 9 that have just been refurbished. So then assessing those remaining ones and prioritising the work that can be done on those.
Thank
you. Yeah, I should mention that that we're working much more now, rather than being reactive, to do detailed plans for the parks and then work on them when the funding becomes available.
Thank you. We're out of time now, so we'll go to the next. Finally, to the place portfolio. I will take the report as read and invite any questions to Councillor England on this update. Councillor Adeliki.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I thought you said you ran out of time.
Sorry?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, but Councillor Stevens, is that a question for? Yes? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You've given us an update on the health campus, which is likely to be a very important addition to the assets of this community. Would you like to add to what you've had in the report, just to give us a further update?
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Members may already know that there was recently a high-profile announcement on the hospital programme from the government, and Watford General Hospital funding has been delayed until 2032. I requested a meeting to discuss this news, and the Trust and the ICB did come to that meeting to discuss the news and the implications for their project and for the services that we have in this part of the world. They told us that Watford General Hospital has been allowed to continue enabling works and to retain their project team. And so they have been advised that their readiness with land and an advancing programme allows promotion of their project to come possibly sooner than 2032. I'm sure they have their fingers crossed. It's important to note that the NHS formally decided in May 2022 to build in Watford, despite much protest and campaigning, including 6 years of my life. I reminded them of our previous offer to be ready to seek alternative sites in Dacorum, at which point they were very clear that promoting this direction would endanger their project and move the new local facilities for acute provision to the back of the national queue. I made it clear that we understand reality and we understand their clear intentions and decision as stated, but they must understand that Dacorum requests an improvement, expects an improvement in services, which is appropriate for serving a larger area, which includes what will be Hertfordshire's largest settlement, Hemel Hempstead. The Hemel Health Campus, at the cutting edge of the government's strategy for digital community and preventative good health is a separately funded project. So we're not in that queue. Subject to the SOC strategic outline case being developed this year, we anticipate that facility and those services can be ready by 2029. So Hemel and Dacorum will be getting its facilities before Watford, which I think is quite an achievement.
Thank you. Any extra? No. Did Councillor Adrian, did you want to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor, but for the previous portfolio holder.
Oh, all
so
right.
the time
Thank you.
ran out. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right. Next, Councillor Freedman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor England, in your report you mentioned that you've conducted workshops with councillors and some external partners in regards to the active wellbeing strategy. Can you provide us an overview of the direction of travel since those workshops, please?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Yes, we had a workshop for the active wellbeing strategy, which was an opportunity to inform councillors and involve councillors in the process for writing this strategy. The strategy hasn't been written yet. The whole point is that we've done consultation with the public. We're doing consultation with councillors, and then the strategy has been written with all of that input into it. The consultation was done over recent weeks and months. 500 people responded. There was a whole range of findings from it, which are now being digested and put into a strategy, which is going to be capable of making the council able to bid for pots of money, which you can only get if you've done the thinking and if you've done the involvement. So I think we've put ourselves in a very good position there already, just by endeavouring on that work. But that will be coming to council through the usual processes. Members of the appropriate scrutiny committees will have a chance to have some further input into that process. Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With the recent announcement of the increasing delays to funding of any work at Watford Hospital now well into the 2030s, and it's already acknowledged inadequate provision of healthcare for Dacorum residents, does it need to think that a downgraded health campus at Hemel Hempstead offers sufficient health provision for our residents to replace the hospital site that we currently have, bearing in mind that the Watford project may never go ahead? And as he has himself campaigned for many years for an alternative provision, does he think that selling out for a downgraded health centre really serves the residents of Dacorum well?
Thank you. I've been in this conversation since at least 2017. It might have even been the back end of 2016. I've been to the Your Care, Your Future presentations. I've listened from the back of the room, and I've been on that journey. I've watched that soap opera. It's been a roller coaster ride. In 2021, when I was elected to county, the first thing that I did as a new county councillor was insist that my group of Lib Dem councillors came to a meeting with me so that I could talk to them about the hospital situation and how that is seen here. I had to fight for that meeting because, of course, it's easy to stick to the positions that you found. I had to listen to the Watford councillors tell me about how much difficulty and political capital had been spent by them in order to make what the project that they felt was going to go ahead in 2021 possible. At the same time, the NHS was going through its process of strategic outline business case, and they came to a decision in May 2022, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, a decision which was endorsed by Sir Mike Penning as being reality. it's certainly the situation that in this country, the health service is not under the direct control of anyone except for the health secretary. So as a local authority, we don't have a statutory committee to deal with this, but we have health and wellbeing in decorum, which, you know, I have to credit the previous administration for setting that up and acknowledging that health really matters in this part of the world. But I also have to give credit to Kathleen McAreevy, Deputy Mayor, for widening that remit, because unfortunately that committee had reached a point where, with the decision on the hospital made, we were unwilling to, the NHS were a little bit reluctant to actually come to those meetings, knowing that they were only going to be asked about the hospital. So I think we have to be really realistic about the situation that we're in. The NHS is not going to build the hospital in Hemel that people have been campaigning for. They've told us. They've been very clear. They've been through a years-long process to make that very clear. So I'm not somebody who looks at reality and then thinks that that's not reality. It is reality until something changes. Governments can change things. The government could turn around and say, do you know what, we've changed our minds, we're going to build something in Hemel. And probably the whole process would be swept away. If anybody knows anybody who can talk to the government, then that might be something we could try. I think we've done motions before. To come back to the question, do I think it's enough? As I just said, it's very clear now that Hemel is going to be the biggest settlement in Hertfordshire in however many years, 5 years. That may change things. I think we're going to build a lot of houses to make that change. But if it changes something, I'll be in the front of the queue. And I have said to the hospital people, if they're willing to open that decision, then I'm ready as council leader, for as long as I am, to come forward with sites from Decorum.
No, sorry, we're running out of time. Sorry again. Thank you. Right. Now to agenda item 6, motions. I invite Councillor Adrian England to present his motion and remind members that a copy of the motion is included with the agenda.
Madam Mayor, I have a declaration of interest on this one.
Right.
I'm a member of the London Gliding Club at Dunstable that flies in the Class D airspace associated with Luton Airport. I believe it's a personal interest. I would like clarification.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor England.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is rather a long motion, but I gather I have to read it out now, so I'm going to do that. That is correct, isn't it?
I think it would be helpful, bearing in mind we're recording.
Okay. Yes, of course. So for the tape, stop the nonsensical nonsensical Luton expansion. The following motion has been proposed by me, the leader of the council, and will be seconded, I believe, by Councillor Terry Douris. This council notes that a government decision on the proposed large expansion of Luton Airport is now expected in early April 2025, after the Chancellor of the Exchequer intimated that it should be granted. This council has previously expressed strong objections to the proposed expansion of Luton Airport. On Luton Airport's doorstep, residents from Decorum are extremely concerned about the upcoming decision because of, number one, aircraft noise, number two, the impact on our local roads with overcrowding in light of the government's growth agenda, number three, the impact of CO2 emissions and air pollution, compounding the likelihood of the airport completely failing to reach net zero by 2050, which is a legal requirement. This council notes, sorry, I shouldn't have amended the motion there with the legal bit. This council notes that the Luton Airport had already breached their aircraft noise limits for 3 consecutive years up to 2019. Promises of quieter aircraft have since failed to materialise. Luton Airport has failed to deliver on their promises. This council further notes that the claim that airport expansion will lead to economic growth fails to consider that despite significant growth in air passenger numbers over the last 2 decades, there has been no net growth in air travel for business purposes. There has been no net growth in jobs in air transport. Real wages in air transport jobs have fallen significantly. The UK's domestic overnight tourism industry has shrunk significantly. Growth has primarily driven leisure travel abroad and increased the travel spending deficit, with the greatest spending losses seen in the UK's wider regions. This council also notes that advice from the UK Climate Change Committee is clear. No airport expansion should proceed until a UK-wide capacity management framework is in place to assess annually and, if required, control sector CO2 emissions and non-CO2 effects. In 2021, the Climate Change submitted a report to the previous government advising that not only is aviation likely to be the largest emitter of CO2 by 2050, but that relative emissions from aviation can only be reduced by about 20% using fuel efficiency measures. As such, this proposed 77% increase, 77%, into Luton Airport capacity fundamentally undermines the UK's commitment to reach net zero by 2050. This council agrees that the leader will write to the Secretary of State. Sorry, bear with me, I've got a pop up here. The leader will write to the Secretary of State to urge a common sense decision to focus construction workforce on affordable homes and net zero infrastructure, and urge the government to oppose this expansion before a UK air travel capacity framework is in place.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I second the motion, reserve my right.
Thank you. I will now open the floor for debate. Councillor Smith-Wright? Or is it you next? Sorry, you are at the top. I thought you were still there. You want to speak first, Councillor England?
I would like to.
Yeah, well then.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm proposing this motion, which I hope we'll be able to agree, because this council has previously expressed strong objections to the proposed expansion of Luton Airport. Promises of quieter airport have failed to materialise, and in any case, the effect of being near an airport on the flight path is an intermittently cumulative sensory and psychological torment unless aircraft can be made to produce birdsong, which is nonsensical. We are only too aware of the government targets for planning of homes in Decorum and neighbouring districts, so the prospect of attracting through traffic to the huge increase in car parking which would be required at the airport would be extremely concerning and nonsensical. Growth in leisure air travel simply increases consumption rather than building the UK's or Hertfordshire's potential export economy. It just means spending losses seen in the UK's wider regions, which is nonsensical. This council has also declared a climate emergency. The advice from the government's own UK Climate Change Committee is clear and is in the motion. This means that with a third runway at Heathrow now a step closer, everything is harder for other airports to achieve those goals, and we need to see policy shift towards alternatives. Expansion of Luton is nonsensical. It will therefore be appropriate for the leader to write to the Secretary of State to urge a common sense decision to focus our construction workforce on the areas where we really need it, and not necessarily on leisure travel overseas. I hope you will join me in voting for this motion. Thank you.
Councillor, excuse me, Councillor Smith-Wright.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yes, I'd like to support this motion. As Climate Ecological Emergency Portfolio Holder, I am aware that Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, easier to say, has made it clear we have just a dozen years to prevent catastrophic global warming. And yet here we are, debating an airport expansion that would dramatically increase emissions, pollute our air, and worsen the climate crisis. This is not just about today, it's about our duty to our children. We all know this, to stop the reckless rise in flights and aircraft emissions. The proposal threatens Markyate, Flamstead, Tring, and some of the Chilterns, home to rare species, ancient woodlands of Ashridge, and precious chalk streams at the Vere. The spring-fed wetlands of the valley that are slow to freeze there, providing a temporary refuge for overwintering birds and support a variety of plants, animals, and invertebrates, and birds in summer. Once lost, these habitats, like the Amazon, cannot be replaced. The airport has already failed to meet its noise reduction commitments, violating agreements for 3 years where residents suffer, expanding flights to 22 hours a day with barely an hour respite is an unacceptable assault on public health, impacting sleep, heart disease, and mental well-being. The World Health Organization has warned of these dangers, yet this government ignores them. This expansion is not needed. It is not sustainable and is simply not justifiable. I'm proud to support this motion and stand firmly against this expansion of Luton Airport. We must demand better for our communities, for our health, and for our future. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Hannell.
Madam Mayor, firstly, I'm very grateful to Councillor England for the very balanced title of his motion, Stop the Nonsensical Luton Expansion. Thanks for that. The decision to expand Luton Airport will not be taken until April the 3rd. This expansion is not yet government policy. I've written to the leader of the Luton Unitary Authority, Hazel Simmons, and our group leader will be meeting with her in the next couple of weeks to discuss our concerns. Our concerns are particularly the impact of the expansion on the northern Dacorum villages, mainly Markyate and Flamstead. They're 5 and 6 miles respectively away from the runway. We would like to understand more about the green controlled growth framework intended to constrain growth within defined limits for greenhouse gas emissions and relate to the operation of airport noise, air quality and access and egress at the expanded airport. We'll be able to take a much more informed position, which we intend to put to the Transport Secretary, Heidi Alexander, prior to the decision being taken on April the 3rd. Until I have a more informed set of circumstances, I'm going to abstain in this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. As there are no more, Councillor Douris, would you like to sum up?
Yeah. I rise to second this motion in place of Councillor Jane Timmis, who unfortunately can't be here this evening. Councillor England has set out in some detail the ecological issues surrounding this proposed expansion, but Luton Rising's proposal will see a dramatic impact on the surrounding areas, both in the sky and on the ground. In 2024, there were 132,000 flights and 16.7 million passengers. The M1 between Junction 9 and Junction 10 is already one of the busiest roads in the country. Can we really comprehend what effect a near doubling of passenger numbers will have to the already 5th busiest road or busiest airport in the UK? The residents of Councillor Timmis and Councillor Barradell's ward already have major interruptions in their daily life, with aircraft departing over the villages of Flamstead and Markyate, and indeed on the other side of the airport in Breachwood Green and that area of Hertfordshire, North Hertfordshire. But it's not just about local villages, no matter how important and how relevant they are. The wider public view must be recognised by the decision makers. In 3 public consultations, 90% of respondents opposed the expansion. And what of Wigmore Park? This beautiful setting, which is home as a natural habitat for many species. As Councillor Timmis understands, this will be the site of new passenger building. This expansion proposal will have a major significant effect, not only on the local villages, but on the wider area being on the doorstep of North Hertfordshire and the Bridgewater Hertfordshire County Council division. Of course, it could be argued that the expansion will bring many more jobs at the airport, but that in turn creates many more vehicle journeys for the staff who are required to work there. And what will all these extra movements mean, and how can we square this huge increase with the Climate Change Committee's advice to the government that there should be no further airport expansion in the UK if we were to be net zero by 2050? The decision on this major planning application will need to be decided by a development consent order, with both applications and objections needed to be made by the Transport Secretary, not the Chancellor of the Exchequer. In the recent speech in the Commons, the Chancellor of the Exchequer indicated her desire to expand Heathrow Airport, but made it very clear that any future other developments in the airport sector would be made by the Transport Secretary. And we have not yet had any response or any indication from the Transport Secretary in this Labour government. So I urge you to support the motion, ideally without dissension, so that decorum stands firm behind our residents in expressing our concern for huge environmental damage that 70,000 and 40,000 car journeys producing even more congestion, more carbon emissions and noise will bring. Please support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor England, as the mover of the original motion, you have the final right to reply before we move on to vote.
Madam Mayor.
Sorry, did you? Oh, sorry.
No, I didn't wish to speak. Councillor England moved the motion and then he spoke. I believe he doesn't get another go. He exercised his right to reply immediately after moving the motion.
No. No, I've been told he can.
I understand the point, but Councillor England, as the mover, should get a final right to reply. I don't think he was exercising that earlier, albeit I appreciate he had a second go at moving the motion, but I think it's right he should reply.
Do you wish to? Yes, thank you. Yes, sorry.
I think if we accept what our honourable legal friend has said, it leads us down a dangerous track. It was very clear that Councillor England introduced the motion. He introduced it in quite a long period of time, accepting that. I then seconded it, I believe, and that concluded his initial introduction. He then went on to have a further 10 minutes on the clock to speak again, and that, I would agree with Councillor Williams, constituted his second bite of the speaking cherry, so to speak. So I think if we allow this, with the greatest respect to Councillor England, we are in a dangerous mood to go forward in other things which may be challenged.
Madam Mayor, as a point of order, in order to avoid messing with precedent, can I just make clear to the council that the only thing I was going to say is that I absolutely agree that Jane Timmis deserves a lot of credit for championing this issue.
Right, thank you, Adrian. Now, I know. What? Yes. No, we are saying that if you do need to say anything, you can. Thank you. Right, we'll now move on to a vote on the motion. To agree the motion, vote yes. To oppose the motion, vote no. If you wish to, you may select abstain. I will now hand over to Democratic Services to take you through the vote.
Thank you. As you'll see pop up on your screen, you'll have the option to vote for, against or abstain, which are coloured. There is also a sheet in front of your microphone for you to refer to if you do have any problems. If you are having any problems and can't work it out through the sheet, pop your hand up and myself or Cassie will come and support you with your vote. Thank you.
It doesn't say, you just probably have. Yeah. Right, well, it's carried anyway. Yeah, the motion has been carried. So we'll move on. Business from the last meeting. Moving to agenda item 7, business from the last council meeting. All updates are provided in the action point list as published under agenda item 7. And are these agreed as noted? Yeah, thank you. Agenda item 8, I invite Councillor England to introduce the referrals from the Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The referrals from Cabinet as listed below. CA/103/24, Treasury Management Outturn and Performance Indicators. C/111/24, Treasury Management 2024 to 2025 Mid-Year Performance Report. CA/118/.
Yes, sorry, after the first one, you've got to say, is it agreed?
Right.
I thought that was a bit, yeah. Right, Treasury Management Outturn and Performance. You could say that now. Say it again, is it agreed? And then.
Sure, okay, we'll do the call and response.
Yeah, one at a time.
CA/103/24, Treasury Management Outturn and Performance Indicators.
I would like to second that.
Yeah, agreed. That's fine. Next one.
Next one. CA/111/24, Treasury Management 2024 to 2025 Mid-Year Performance Report.
Can I second that?
Agreed.
CA/118/24, Council Tax Report.
I would second that.
Agreed.
Agreed. CA/08/25, Review of Scrutiny by the Centre for Governance and Scrutiny.
Seconding that.
Agreed.
Agreed. CA/10/25, Climate and Ecological Emergency Spending Proposal, Climate and Ecological Emergency Spending Proposal.
Second that.
Agreed. CA/11/25, Transforming Public Procurement Update and Impact Procurement Act 2023.
Second that.
Agreed. CA/12/25, Council Tax Setting Committee.
Second that.
Agreed. CA/19/25, HRA Business Plan.
I second that.
Agreed. And finally, CA/20/25, Budget 2025 to 26.
Second that.
Agreed.
We need a recorded vote.
Yes, we do need a recorded vote for the budget, so.
Madam Mayor, I wish to speak first.
Yes.
Thank you. My turn now? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have raised this concern before, and I think it's appropriate to raise it as we set the budget this evening. We have concerns about the budget. Clearly, the council is in a challenging position. But this budget attempts, well, doesn't attempt, it does, all bar a few quid, to balance the council's budget on the pockets of our residents. There is no attempt by the administration to make any significant, meaningful savings in our operating costs, and simply takes 1.2 million in some swinging revenue increases in cost, 28% on parking, 16% on garages, another 10% on green bins. It is not sustainable for the council or its residents to continue to believe that we can carry on without making necessary savings and ever more charge our residents more and more for the services. That golden goose is coming to the end, and this administration doesn't seem to have got any way to grips with the need to make savings in the organisation. So for that reason, and recognising the importance of setting a budget, we won't vote against the budget this evening, we will abstain on the basis that this is not a budget going forward that will be sustainable for either the council or its residents. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Williams, for your points. The budget has been set on the basis of a balance of income generation and cost saving over many years, as you will be aware. Over the past 10 years, there's been £8 million worth of savings and income generation. This is not something that this administration welcomes. I don't need to go into great depths about the ongoing economic challenges nationally, the impact of COVID, but it is important to stress that in the past 10 years, government grants have reduced by 57%, whilst inflation has risen by 38%, putting local government into a very unhappy situation in terms of funding. In terms of the income generation that you note, the parking charges have been increased, yes. There have been no parking charge increases for 4 to 5 years now, and the parking charges have been increased in keeping with the charges that are applied elsewhere, in fact, within those levels. The council does have a duty to make the best it can from its resources and assets, and that is in keeping with such a duty. So this budget will achieve a further £1 million of savings and income increases to be able to create the balanced budget that you've mentioned. But this is within a context in which we're undertaking a strategic asset review, and there is a lot of transformation going on within the council, strands of transformation that you'll be aware about, in which we are seeking to find efficiencies, seeking to find a better return for the assets that the council have, and that needn't necessarily be out of their pockets directly. So whilst, yes, it is regrettable that we have had to increase parking charges, they are not out of keeping with the charges that are applicable elsewhere within Hertfordshire and beyond. It is not an unreasonable level. The garages are a very successful income generation scheme for the council, and all market indicators suggest that people are happy to pay. We are competitive compared to other storage solutions. In fact, I took on a tenancy of one myself just yesterday. I would commend this budget. It is part of a wider programme of savings and efficiencies, and it is not the intention of this administration that we are entirely dependent on increasing costs for residents. The key thing about this budget, I would suggest, is that officers have worked hard to maintain high quality services for our residents. We have not needed to cut any core services. We are still investing heavily in the borough, 236 million over the next 5 years in capital investment, 163 million on new housing stock, 41 million on various ventures which combine social benefit with financial return, 5 million on the local community sector, and 15 million ongoing investment in the council's vehicle fleet. And on that note, I would like to highlight the excellent work that my colleague, Councillor Bromham, has been doing with the neighbourhood services. For example, by rationalising the number of bin lorry rounds there are, so that we can have fewer vehicles in our fleet, which is a direct saving and therefore not simply coming out of residents' pockets, but actually putting money back in to residents' coffers. The council tax, we are going to apply the 2.99%. that is recommended by government, equating to 13 pence per week. This is, proposing this increase is in line with government expectation and means that we have done all we can to protect Decorum's overall funding position for future years. In conclusion, this budget is one that maintains current services, continues to work closely with its public and private sector partners to support the local economy, and maintains a secure financial base moving forward. This council can enter the coming year feeling confident that with the commitment of its members and staff, we will continue to deliver to our residents in spite of the many and varied challenges local government currently faces. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Guest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The green bin charge is going up by £5. Last year, in a survey, 78% of those who responded said they were against charging more for green waste. I recall it going up last year. It's not the only charges going up. All through the budget, we see fees and charges going up. It's as if the people of Dacorum are being treated as a cash cow being milked for money. That's why I will be happy to abstain from this. I can't vote for this. That's why I'll be happy to abstain from it.
Thank you. Councillor Freedman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I wanted to speak with my councillor of Berkhamsted Castle Ward hat on to say that I feel very privileged as a local councillor that I am looking at a budget that does not take away core services. I know that many colleagues in other authorities across the country are not in the same position. And I am incredibly pleased because I feel that the council has a role to provide these services, and the idea of trying to rationalise them or reduce them is something that I think all of us should dread and try to avoid as much as possible. But now I just want to switch to my hat on as the Chair of the Finance and Resources Oversight and Scrutiny Committee. Whilst the comments made by Councillor Williams do have some merit, I feel they are slightly misrepresentative. Our budget setting process is not one of 1 year to the next. It's not a reactive or chaotic process. The council has a lot of controls, and all of us will be familiar with the MTFS, the Medium-Term Financial Strategy, which is looking at a very detailed outlook for at least 3 years, but looking out onto 5. Whilst there is uncertainty in the future, whilst there are many parts of our economic climate that we should be worried about, and that I completely agree there may be difficult decisions to make in the future, there is absolutely nothing by what has been presented to councillors, what have been presented to our senior officers, what have been presented to our external or internal auditors that would indicate that what we are currently doing will not be sustainable for that medium-term financial strategy. We have a constant duty to be looking at our performance, looking at our outturn, looking at our decisions, to be able to consistently be tweaking that. And there is nothing to indicate that this budget would take away any difficulties in doing that. So personally, I prefer to put the hard decisions off if they're going to put our residents in a worse position. And I'd also like to highlight that whilst fees and charges are going up in an environment where everybody's prices on everything are going up, it is not quite correct to imply that fees and charges are on the people of Dacorum. Many of those fees come from people outside of the borough, both those visiting, both those investing or developing in the borough. So the council's ability to raise funds from outside of those it is directly providing services to, I think is admirable. We have a lot of work to do in this area. It's same with the cost cuttings and efficiencies. Those are always going to continue, but there is nothing that we should take away from our financial controls and structure and all of our forecasts before that.
Thank you. Councillor Barradell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Along with, I believe, the rest of my group, I will be abstaining on this budget. I just wanted to follow on from Councillor Guest's comments on the green bin charge very briefly. I'd hoped to raise this earlier, but we ran out of time. Yet again, we seem to have an example of, Councillor Friedman just then referred to charges on people outside of decorum. But the increase in the green bin charge is very much a charge on the people of decorum, especially in our more rural areas like my ward, where the majority of residents have gardens and have green waste they need to get rid of. And again, we're seeing this charge raised with no raise in service. I was flicking through the Liberal Democrat manifesto that the administration were elected on the other day, and I noticed that it sets out a promise that green bin collection will be extended to be all year round, at busy times to be every 2 to 3 weeks, at less busy times every 3 to 4 weeks. And so my one point mainly is that if this budget passes today, and it looks like it will, I really hope the administration will consider following on with the promise they set out in their manifesto and deliver year-round bin collections, green bin collections for residents that are paying extra for a service, and they really should receive a good service for the money that they're paying. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Allen, you've already spoken, so I don't think you're allowed to speak again. I've been told.
Is that right?
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Bromham.
So there were two comments on green bins there, which is kind of relates to my portfolio. And so 2 points. One, that yes, the year-round collection is an aspiration. I've got a long list of things which would provide good value for money, and one of those would provide 1 or 2 additional collections during the winter. Now, we don't have funds to do that at the moment, but we definitely want to do that because it would be good for the residents. The comment about the fees on the bins, well, it was the previous administration who brought in the green bins initially and didn't charge for them at all, but gave green bins to every household, as far as I could tell. And then, a few years later, kind of changed course and then started charging quite substantially for those. And that then meant that of about 50,000 bins that have been issued, 30,000 are collected, and there's 20,000 unused green bins, which is not the best financial use of those funds, I think.
Councillor England? Councillor England?
Yeah, thank you. I think Councillor Bromham just made the point that really rather obviously needed to be made, which is that the green bin charge was introduced by the Conservatives. We, when we took over, made sure that the concessions for people who obviously would struggle to pay for it were improved. It is a service which, as we saw highlighted in scrutiny and previously, is a service where the charge made for that service does not cover the cost of delivering the service. Bearing in mind that we're inheriting a service that was introduced not by us, massively loss-making, it's difficult to go forward with that without some level of increase. Bearing in mind that the people who actually deliver this increase are among some of the lowest paid of our staff, and therefore are in need of their pay increase. That has an effect on the council's bottom line. It's really important that we highlight the reality of local government funding these days for anyone listening online. There is a widely held assumption that council tax is the majority of our funding. It's 24%, give or take, of our funding. It's a minority contributor. And indeed, for an average household, we're talking about £6.76 per year, which Decorum is charging extra, or 56p per month that we're talking about here. So in those circumstances, I'm afraid I think it is right that we maintain the ability to increase that source of revenue for the council. 48% of the council's income comes from fees and charges of all kinds. It's simply unavoidable given what's being done to local government funding by governments of the last few years, which I am very hopeful will be improved by the government, possibly in their upcoming budget. It's extremely hard to make the sums add up, as members on the opposite side absolutely know full well.
Thank you. Sorry. Now we'll go to the vote. To agree the recommendation, vote yes. To oppose, vote no. And if you wish to abstain, you may abstain. That's already up. There's no abstains. Yes, there we are. Thank you. Is there anybody that hasn't voted? $39. I think mine went, didn't it? Let's try again. Case. No, it did. Two more to vote.
Is anyone having trouble that needs me to come over?
41. How many is there?
43.
Another one then. Does that mean then if there's more abstains?
What?
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's agreed.
So it's agreed. Thank you. Right. Agenda item 9, overview and scrutiny and referrals. There are none. So moving on to agenda item 10, I invite Councillor England to introduce the polling district and polling place order.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following feedback from the 2024 elections, it was requested that 3 polling stations be moved. New sites have been identified and the relevant ward councillors have been consulted, as have the Electoral Review Committee. In addition, 1 polling station is required to be temporarily relocated for the Hertfordshire County Council elections on 1st of May 2025 only, and this is due to renovation works. I therefore propose recommendations 1 and 2 as set out in the report be approved.
Is that agreed? Thank you. Agenda item 11, I invite Councillor England to introduce the waiver for Councillor Stewart.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Stewart has been away from council for a while. He's not very well, but I'm told that he's improving from where he has been. He needs a bit longer. He needs to look after himself, and as is the tradition or the convention in this place, I move that we allow him some more months, I think until July of this year, and then we'll obviously review the situation with him and see how things are going.
Is that agreed? Thank you. Agenda item 12, are there any changes to committee memberships? Councillor England?
Yes, I have Rick Friedman to go on to Housing and Community Committee, Overview Scrutiny Committee and David Deacon to come off that committee. And I have William Allen to go on to the DMC.
Thank you. Councillor Mitchell?
I second that.
Sorry. Councillor England? Sorry.
Apologies, I have some more. I forgot my script. So I also need to propose the membership of the Council Tax Setting Committee, which is the leader of the Council, Councillor Stevens, Councillor Williams, Councillor Elliott, and there is currently a vacancy for an independent member. And I look to Councillor Williams and Councillor Mitchell for any of theirs.
No, that should be Councillor Williams. Councillor Williams, sorry.
Thank you. Just one change from me. Councillor Harden to replace Councillor B. Williams on housing overview and scrutiny.
Right. Councillor Mitchell.
Councillor Greenfield will replace Councillor Silwar on Finance Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Thank you.
Any others? Right, and under agenda item 13, are there any changes to committee dates?
Yes, we have the need to move full council on the 27th of April. I thought it was the 23rd. That will be moved to the 2nd of April of this year. This is because the ballot papers will have arrived by that time and they have to be kept very safe, as I'm sure you agree.
Is that agreed? Thank you. The final item on this agenda will be item 15, the appointment of interim chief executive. I would remind members that the report associated in this item is part 2 and so is excluded from the public. However, unless any confidential information needs to be discussed, I propose we remain in part 1 to confirm this appointment. If anyone has anything of a confidential or a personal nature to discuss, please advise now and I will consider passing the resolution to exclude the public. So is there anybody? No. So, Councillor England, could you?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to introduce this item as read. We are lucky to have Darren Welsh ready to step into this post. He's been providing support to me on a strictly unofficial basis. We have, I promise you, mainly talked about housing, but he's picking up the reins really, really well. And the proposal is to appoint him for a period of 6 months. If we go longer than that and the government hasn't imposed unitaries on us, then we may need to think again and do a proper recruitment process and run that again. Is that agreed?
Is that agreed? Yep. Right, that concludes the business of this evening's council. Thank you, everybody, coming. Thank you.